is Peter Bales, and we're here at Airventure 2022 in the Warbird area. I brought my helicopter, which is a 1967 OH-6A made by Hughes. This helicopter was in Vietnam. I also served in Vietnam flying the Hughes. This particular aircraft was in my unit, but it got damaged, blown up 9 months before I got in country, so I did not fly this particular aircraft, one just like it. So, go over the controls here. We have, this is a co-pilot side. We did fly in Vietnam with the co-pilot controls in case the pilot were to get shot. Whoever was next to you hopefully had enough experience to be able to get you back. But that never happened to me, but it has happened to others. The collective, should be doing this on the other side. But you can, this is how you get, this is called the collective, and you'll see the blades increase pitch collectively, and that's what gives you your power, your up power. The cyclic control is right here, and if you notice, it turns all the blades in a cyclic fashion. They're not equal, and that controls your rotor disc. The inputs are actually put in 90 degrees in front of where they take effect. That's gyroscopic precession. All the helicopters are built with that in mind. We have, this is roll harness for the, we locked these when we were in Vietnam in combat. We would lock these so if we did get shot, we wouldn't fall into the controls. Okay, in Vietnam, in my particular unit, we were in a hot area. We never flew with these doors on. They were always off. But back here would be the gunner. He'd be sitting with that bungee cord, his M60 off the bungee cord, and he's got free rein to shoot out of there. You just hope they never shoot out your blades, which has happened also. But also we did carry grenades, smoke grenades. We use the smokes a lot. We very seldom use the high explosive grenades. This is a transmission cover. Underneath here, it's really just soundproofing. It's never designed very well for the military. In fact, a lot of the aircraft, even in Vietnam, just took it all out. But we did have it in there. You got just room for two back here, and we often had 4 people on board doing, just moving them from place to place. This is the serial number of the aircraft, 16026, and I didn't know it when I bought the aircraft. I got it from a sheriff's department, that it had the history that it has. I didn't know that it was in my unit in Vietnam. It took about a year to find the pilot that was flying, and the story and what happened was that he was hovering doing a bomb damage assessment, and he set off a booby trap or an RPG exploded underneath him, and it really mangled the belly. It blew, and had to be sent back to, he was able to fly it back to the fire support base. Then it was sent back to California for a rebuild. So, it's the engine compartment. This is an Allison C-18, or actually, that's a military designation, I forgot what it is. But it's the first run of the Allison series. They've since the later models of the Hughes civilian model have a bigger engine. This is just the first go around. Now the ones that the Army flies have more than twice the horsepower. They got 6 blades, got 4 tail rotor blades, and they're a real muscle car. Starter generator, it's used for starting the engine, and then once you started, you put it into generator mode, and it's our generator, charges everything, charges the battery. It's just a cooling duct for the starter motor. And your fuel control and governor are over under, kind of on the other side of that thing. And this is your throttle control. That's hooked up to the collective up front. And you start it, you put it in flight idle, then you run it up to full RPM. And it's governed, it stays there. We don't, like a piston aircraft, we don't have to move the throttle. We just set the throttle and go. So that's that. Tail boom is a time life item from here back. It's good for about 2,200 hours. Then it has to be replaced. There's a civilian replacement model. It's good for 10,000 hours. but I wasn't able to buy one of those. So these are the horizontal stabilizer. On the early models, we had this. On the current, and from the middle of 75 or so on, they have a T-tail. So on the Hughes market, they have basically the same fuselage, but they have the T-tail at the top. So this is your lower horizontal. These are all time-life items and getting hard to get. So you have ADS-B out, which is required. I didn't really want to put it on, but we needed to. This is your tail rotor control. This is operated by your feet up front, and they're anti-torque pedals. The more power you pull, the more you have to counteract that with the tail rotor. Some helicopters, this is a weak point where they lose tail rotor control. It's not so bad on this aircraft. So, this is Yosemite Sam was our 3rd Squadron 11th Armored Cav model, or what do you call it? We use this. We did actually, it came from Disney, I think, or Looney Tunes, one of those guys. We wrote and got permission to put it on the side of our tanks, the trucks, the tracks, the helicopters. So everything was 3rd Squadron had the Yosemite Sam on it. So this is fuel. It's jet fuel, or JP4, JP5, and it's 54 gallons. And we have a burn rate of 25 an hour, pretty right on all the time. So it goes 2 hours and then it quits. So it'll go 2 hours and 4 minutes. But in Vietnam, we did hour and a half, and I still do the hour and a half limit. That leaves you some room if you have to go somewhere else for fuel. So, and the oil is just a 7808 standard military designation oil, and we use now Mobile 254 is the number, and that's your sight gauge for the oil. That's where the oil goes. These are just nav lights. This particular little plastic piece is unique to the OH-6, so they're hard to come by. The civilian models didn't have the little extension on them. This is a jack point, also used for tying the blades down to this. There's a jack point on the other side, and then there's one on the tail boom right here. So you can just standard aircraft jacks to jack it up, level it, whatever you need to do. So up on the rotor system, you've got hydraulic dampeners that control. The blade has to lead and lag and flap. It's a fully articulated rotor system. So it's allowed to swing forward on its own. They're allowed to flap up on their own. And if you ever watch this in flight, they're really working. The retreating blade has to increase in pitch. And that's what limits your forward speed, is the retreating blade speed. So you get to a point where it'll stall out and you'll actually roll. So don't want to do that unless you're the 105 that can do that stuff. Okay. This aircraft, this pilot sits on the right side. Civilian model, they sit on the left side. And the theory on the reason that they have it on the right side for the Army is so that the single pilot can get to his radios and keep his hand on the collective instead of swapping hands, which you do if you're on this side. But you get used to it, you can do that. The standard startup is like most any aircraft. You check all your circuit breakers. You go to the battery, which right now is disconnected for here. Then we have a control check. And again, you want to have full travel, nothing stopping you. And here, full travel on the collective. It's all part of your check. Put your frictions back on for the start, and go through a start procedure, which is merely battery on. Check your lights. And then we use, there's a starter button here. We introduce fuel at 15%, 16%. Watch your TOT. Almost every start in the hot days goes up to the red line, which is a normal start. And it has 2 phases. It comes back down and then it goes back up again. And once you're up to 59%, you're idling. So you can release a starter at 59%. And then it's generator on, and then the master radio and what have you. unfortunately had to change out the Army radios because I just couldn't keep them running. They would give them very expensive to get them fixed, and you get them fixed and they break, and so I got fed up and I took out 160 pounds of avionics and put in 16. And so it's a pretty light aircraft. We're down around 1,200 pounds. 2250 is 2550 is your gross. We have, well, a couple things. These are merely to put your headset on, your helmet. This is a heater. It's a bleed air heater. You slide this and it opens up a valve which feeds into the heat system, and you can see right here you have outlets for defrost, and then there's it blows down, and it's actually quite effective. This is your engine anti-ice. You turn that on at 40 degrees and visible moisture so you don't freeze up your engine. That's also bleed air that uses, and these are just more air vents. OAT gauge, and
okay. Is it a light right here to your left?
This is our map light. I keep it up here so it's out of the way. Doesn't get used very often. These days, night flying is an emergency procedure for me. I avoid it. First aid kit, standard issue. Again, your heating duct work going up, and I think we demonstrated this. If not, it's the shoulder harness that you can lock, which we locked in flight. This is just a plexiglass breaker if you need it sometime, which I hope never to use. Under here, do we show? This is the battery. It had a NiCad battery, but the lead acid batteries have been more reliable, so going to lead acid on this. This side is just a little bit of storage. You have about the same amount of space under there, and put in cleaning supplies, rags, and what have you. And this is all we got for a map case. I did some exciting flying in Vietnam.
I figured you did.
They got a DFC actually for dropping off a company commander down. It's a triple canopy jungle, and his lieutenant was killed, his sergeant was wounded, and the troops on the ground were totally without a leader, and they were panicking. So I tried to hover down to them, and I saw that I'd get to about 10 feet off the ground, and they were all trying to jump up and get at me. So I went back and offered to drop the company commander from 10 feet. And you had to get in there, I had sideways down, back and forth and down. And I told him I'd give him a nod. The guy was looked like O.J. Simpson, and he was muscles. And he dropped all his gear down to his guys. Then I had him get out and hang off the skid, and I told him I'll give him a nod, and he can let go, and then I would correct for the CG change. Well, he let go, and I went through the trees, some of the lower branches of the trees before I got it under control. It was much faster than I expected it to react. Anyway, I hovered back out of the hole, and he took charge of his company, and I eventually got him out of there. And our tanks went in and busted jungle to go out and get them out of there. So that was one of the stories. And all right, well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy it. All you people out there need to make it to Oshkosh sometime in your life. It's a great place.